Today we have, good morning, everyone. Today we have Miss Erin Barnes with us. She is a second place or first place winner. Which one is it?
First place.
First place. Okay, so she is a first place winner in the 2021 Write a Book contest. So what does it take to come first place? We're about to find out as she shares her journey and her story. Looking at the cover, it's called Relief. Good morning, Miss Barnes. Just give us a quick introduction about yourself. Who are you? Who are you and how did we get here?
My name is Erin Barnes. I'm in the 10th grade. And how I got here, I really don't know. Because when I first was thinking about doing Write a Book, I was like, I'm not sure. I've only done it one time before and it wasn't so good. And I was like, I'm not sure I'll even win. But I did it anyway. And I was kind of scared and I was waiting for the results. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going to happen.
All right. So when you won first place, what did you think? Did you feel like you had a first place winner?
No, I didn't feel like it because it's my own work, so I didn't really feel like it was good enough.
Is this your first short story? Is this your first entry?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us about the title.
The book's called Relief because in the end of the story, it's kind of like the character is relieved even though she shouldn't be. And that's just how I came up with the title.
All right. So we don't want to delay. I love the cover so far. Do we have any questions prior to her reading? Do we have any questions prior to her reading? Let's see. I look in the chat. No questions. All right. So can you please start reading? We would love to
Okay.
From the author herself.
It was 2 a.m. on a Friday night at the end of October. The winds were blowing and shaking the chimes on the neighbor's house. The clouds were covering the moon, so it would be extremely dark if it wasn't for the streetlights and passing cars. I was sitting on my bed waiting for her signal, nervous about getting caught by my parents. I heard 3 knocks at my window on the second floor. I opened it, grabbed my shoes, and safely used the tree beside my house to climb to the ground. I sat down on the ground and slipped on my shoes. Hey, you got down faster than the last time. New record. I laughed and turned towards my friend River, who was a tall, athletic girl. Where are we going this time? I asked, as we started walking. River and I like doing unusual things, so going out at 2 o'clock in the morning was right up our alley. You'll know when we get there. Race you to the end of the street, River said as she took off. That's not fair, I yelled loud enough for her to hear me, and no one else, and started running to catch up. We should both decide where to go, I yelled again. But at the time, I didn't really worry about where we were going. But maybe I should have been. I should have stopped her. But what good are these thoughts now? I couldn't have known. When I got to the end of the street, I spotted River trying to catch her breath. You're such a cheater, I said out of breath when I approached her. She ignored my accusation and began walking again before she led me into a dark and dusted off path. I paused. You aren't going to kill me out here, right? I said in a sarcastic voice. I can't believe after years of friendship. She laughed and responded, yes, this was my plan all along. Stop ruining it. She grabbed my arm and I started to squirm as a joke. Get off of me, you monster. I started laughing. Oh, shush, she answered, laughingly. We walked down the path, laughing and joking, until we reached a big old house. It looked beautiful with vines hanging all over it and trees covering part of it. It had a mysterious vibe that just drew me in. It's beautiful, isn't it? River said, turning to me. I found it a few days ago when I trailed off the path in the woods. I just knew you would like it. I stood there in silence, mesmerized by the beautiful sight. After a while, River linked my arm with hers and dragged me toward the house. Let's go in and check it out, she suggested. Strangely, she had a key to the house, although she said that she had just found the place. I forgot to ask her where she got the key from because I was so eager to explore this house. When we entered, we saw what I assume were paintings and tables covered by cloths. River started pulling down cloths to look at what was underneath. There were paintings of different places and people I didn't know. I followed River in and out of many rooms until I saw something that caught my eye. I walked in toward the room and saw a few boxes in it. Curious, I walked into the room and decided to look through them. I came across pictures and other memorabilia of what I thought were people who once lived in this house. I thought back to pictures on the wall and realized that some of the people on the wall were in the pictures. When I was almost done looking at the stack of pictures, I came across a few from the house and noticed that in some of the pictures in the house, there was a shadow in the back. I thought nothing of it at first, but when I examined the pictures closely, I realized that the shadow was in a few. After a while of trying to come up with an explanation, I convinced myself that it was nothing and shoved the pictures into my pocket. So I got up and went and continued to look into rooms. I walked in and out of many doors, looking at paintings and different colored walls. When I became a little tired, because I had gotten up in the middle of the night, I told myself I would sit down for a while and then go look for River, which I hadn't seen since the room with all the paintings. I felt a little bad that I decided not to immediately go look for her, so I got up and walked out of the room I was in. When I turned to my right, I noticed a shadow running down one of the hallways, and shortly after, a crash followed. "River," I yelled. "Sarah, come look," her voice cut off. "River, look at what?" I asked, walking toward where I heard her voice. "River," I kept calling her name repeatedly, but no response. I walked in and out of rooms looking for any sign of her, but I couldn't find her. And then I felt something brush against my hand. When I turned around, there was nothing but darkness, so I assumed it was a prank. "River, this is not funny. Come out right now," I said, obviously annoyed with her antics. I walked around the house some more, shouting her name until I saw something I will never forget. A mysterious shadow was flickering on the wall, reaching toward me. It was almost the length of the whole wall and was hunched over, holding something in his hand that I couldn't recognize. At first, I froze, not knowing what to do, but then I started running, not looking back. While I was moving past the many doors I had opened, desperately trying to find a way out, I saw the shadow appearing on the walls in front of me. I had completely forgotten about River. All I was worried about was getting out alive. When I turned the corner, I tripped over something and almost lost my balance. I picked up the item. It was a pair of tennis shoes, River's tennis shoes. I looked around and spotted a photograph that hadn't been on the wall. It was a girl. She was River's height with the same facial features and clothes that she was wearing tonight. I looked at the picture for a name or anything that could tell me who it was, until in the corner of my eye, I noticed the girl's bracelet. It looked almost identical to the one I'd bought River on her 16th birthday. I thought for a moment, how did she get River's bracelet? Then it hit me. The girl was River. I began to back away from the photograph, shocked. Who put her in there? How is that possible? Then the railing on the upper floor hallway started to shake and rattle, but that wasn't the worst. Items began to drop from upstairs and almost hit me if I hadn't dodged them. What's going on? I asked myself as I looked up just in time to see another item about to drop on me. I swiftly moved out of the way and went to look at the item. It was a small blank canvas with a sticky note on it that read, "You're next." I sat there for a moment trying to recollect my thoughts as random objects kept falling around me. I had to leave. I got up and started running, dodging pencils, pens, canvases, and paint buckets falling near me. I ran through what felt like pretty much the entire house before I finally found the exit. I believed I was free when something tripped me up unexpectedly. I turned around and my eyes met a shadow dressed in black towering over me. I started to panic, not knowing what to do, so I began throwing random objects, but I missed again and again. I started to believe that I was helpless when I remembered that my phone had a flashlight. I brought my phone out, and before the shadow could grab it out of my hand, I shone the light in its face. When the shadow was distracted, trying to shield itself from the light, I got up and ran. I ran straight to the door, leaving it ajar when I left. I ran through the path, occasionally tripping over roots and rocks in the ground. I made it into the woods, dodging tree branches and running into spider webs until I made it to the street. I finally stopped believing I was safe. I finally stopped believing that I was safe and walked home, climbing back into my window, using the tree that grew perfectly right next to it. I slipped off my shoes and flopped straight into my bed, making sure my window was shut tight. I shoved the pictures that I had stolen from the house in my pillowcase and tried to calm my thoughts. I know it sounds awful that I would just abandon River, but what other choice did I have? I was scared out of my wits. While I was trying to sleep, in spite of the excitement I had just had, there was a knock on my window. Oh no, what's going on now? I was scared. I was scared, but I went to see who it was anyway. When I drew the curtains aside, River's smiling face was looking at me. I opened the window. She just perched there in my tree, laughing and saying, "Happy Halloween." Now I understood she was the shadow who had made all that racket to give me a good fright. She probably had a key to the house because it belonged to a family member of hers. That would explain River's photograph. But what about the shadow in some of the pictures? Somebody probably wasn't a good photographer, or were they? I felt relieved that nothing had happened to River and that she had simply played a not very funny prank on me. But I also felt embarrassed. So the next morning and the days after, I pretended that nothing had happened. I deleted all the texts about us ever sneaking out and never said a word to anyone because I was ashamed that it was so easy to trick me. I was also ashamed that I felt relief when I escaped from the house while assuming that something bad had happened to River. We are still friends, but it will take some time for me to overcome my fears and embarrassment. Then.
Is this a true story or is this a fiction story, Erin?
No, it's a fiction.
This was really good. I thought it was really
That was
vivid too.
awesome.
The creativity was awesome and great job, Erin.
Yeah,
Thank
that was so
you.
good.
That was very descriptive. I love it.
Miss Whitworth, you're muted.
I don't really have to say much because you guys have said it all. Erin, a wonderful job. You have definitely a talent and a skill in writing. And I hope that working with the Khan Academy is helping you to even further heighten your skills. And right now, there's some opportunities for some writers. They're looking for writers, African-American writers. And you guys who have won, I've sent you an email already for one thing, but there's also several things happening this summer that you guys can be entitled to. Are there any specific questions for the writer? You have an opportunity to speak to the author. Any questions? How did you come up with the main character's name, River?
I was just thinking of names, and that was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Okay. Anyone else have a question for the author?
Did you have like a layout? Oh, I'm sorry, Hannah. Go ahead.
Thanks. How long did it take you to do that? Because that's very thought out.
So I came up with the idea, like I was about to go to bed. It was like 3 a.m, and then like it just popped into my head. So I typed it down in my notes. And then the next morning I wrote like a little bit of the story. And then later on I edited it. And so it probably took maybe 4 days.
Wow.
Nice job.
Nice job. Great job. Any other questions? All right, so congratulations to our first place winner, Erin Barnes, 10th grader, for her novel, Relief. And I hope that you take it further. And I'm going to talk to Dr. Brown about getting these books published so we can have our own little, book fair before we leave. So I'm going to stop recording you. Any last comments or anything you want to encourage future writers for future contests? Erin?
I would say if you want to write a book, just write it, because don't be scared about the success or like what will happen if you don't win a contest. I believe you should just do it because anyone can.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, that